Before the release of the Clean Water Act in 1972, municipal and industrial waste would be dumped directly into neighboring rivers and oceans. Over the past 50 years, the United States has drastically changed its wastewater treatment, and although our water is far from perfect, our surrounding waterways are much cleaner now. However, scientists have been stumped by a new problem.
Nearly half of the nation's drinking water contains potentially harmful, forever chemicals.
PFAS. Per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, otherwise known as PFAS, are a group of man-made chemicals that break down very slowly. This enables the chemicals to build up in people, animals, and the environment over time, and the effect PFAS have on human health is still being studied. Recent studies show that high PFAS exposure may lead to reproductive effects, developmental delays, increased cancer risk, and an interference with the body's natural hormones. Because PFAS are used everywhere, from non-stick cookware to stain-resistant clothing, many of these chemicals end up in our wastewater treatment facilities. PFAS are often released back into the environment because they are 1,100 times smaller than a grain of sand, which is small enough to seep through the filters of a wastewater treatment facility. So, how is Monterey's wastewater treatment facility dealing with this issue? When I reached out to Monterey OneWater to interview their lab technicians, their spokeswoman responded in an email, stating, "The science, regulations, and public messaging around PFAS are still evolving, and as a wastewater treatment agency, we are passive receivers, not producers of these chemicals. We defer to regulatory agencies and other experts for guidance on this issue." Naturally, I decided to investigate Monterey OneWater myself and review their filtration process. It is important to be sure that potentially cancerous chemicals are being filtered from Monterey's wastewater because all of Monterey's tap and agricultural water is recycled. That means all the water we use to cook, drink, and wash our clothes with is not just coming from underground wells, but from yesterday's water that was flushed down the drain. Monterey OneWater goes through the normal wastewater treatment process. Organic matter and water are separated through grit chambers and primary clarifiers before the water is processed in an aeration tank, where microscopic particles are broken down by bacteria. The filtered water goes through another clarifier to separate any other organic matter that may still be lurking, and the water is then disinfected before it returns to the oceans and our faucets. The disinfectant treatment is the most important part of the filtration process, as PFAS easily slurp through even the smallest of filters. The EPA suggests 3 ways to filter PFAS from drinking water: advanced carbon treatment, ion exchange treatment, and high-pressure membranes, such as reverse osmosis, which is the technique that Monterey OneWater uses. Reverse osmosis uses pressure to force water through a very fine filter that traps impurities while letting water pass through. One report by the Centers of Disease Control found PFAS in the blood of 97% of Americans. And while reverse osmosis filters are highly effective, they are not a silver bullet solution for PFAS-free water. Because Monterey OneWater was unable to give an interview, I am left with more questions than answers. For example, Monterey OneWater takes organic matter and dries it in the sun, which creates compost. However, the facility does not deliver their compost to the directly neighboring farms, but instead delivers their compost to farms miles away. Is this because PFAS still lingers in the organic matter? What levels of PFAS is the facility discovering in the water, and how are they testing for it? These questions and more are vital to ask, and help inform the public on how to protect themselves from a rising threat.